everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to our very first Waterstones virtual school event of 2024. Today, I am delighted to introduce you all to the wonderful Beth Lincoln, author of our current children's book of the month, The Swifts. The Swifts is a wonderful and hilarious mystery about a very eccentric family, but you'll hear more about that from Beth in a moment. So just a few notes from me. Today's session will be recorded as always, so if you miss anything or if you need to revisit anything, you'll be emailed the link after the fact. We have some pre-submitted questions, so thank you everyone for sending those through, but please feel free to pop some questions in the chat throughout the session, and we'll try and get to as many as we can at the end. We'd also love to see any pictures of you enjoying the session, so please, if you put them on social media, use the hashtag Waterstones Virtual Events, because we love to see them. Now, without further ado, I'll hand you over to the lovely Beth Lincoln.
All right, hi guys. We've just got a little message in the chat to say we can't hear you. If this is just the case for that one person, I'm very sorry. If it's for everyone, somebody else type in and we'll see what we can do about that. But for now, I'm going to assume that this is an isolated problem and I'm going to continue. So hello. Right. So, hi, I'm Beth Lincoln. My book, The Swifts, came out last year in hardback. It's just out now in paperback. It was written by me and it was illustrated by Claire Powell. And you're going to see some of her amazing illustrations as we go through this. So, what is The Swifts about? Well, The Swifts is a middle grade murder mystery. And it is it is for everyone, but it is mostly for people about your age, so age 9 to 12. And it follows Shenanigan Swift, who was born into a family where everyone is named after a word in the dictionary. And Shenanigan lives with her really ridiculous family in this huge ramshackle old house. And she is excited to find that the reunion of Swifts is coming around, where her family from all over the world are going to gather together in Swift House to search for the lost treasure of her granduncle Vile. And Shenanigan is so excited to find this treasure, up until someone shoves her aunt down the stairs, and what started as a treasure hunt becomes a murder investigation. So, who are the Swifts? I'm going to introduce some of the characters to you now because they all are very special. This is Shenanigan Swift. She's the protagonist. She is an enthusiast of explosives and medieval weaponry and rats and chaos. Then there is her sister Felicity, who is a fan of sewing and screaming. Then there is her other sister Phenomena, who is a scientist who unfortunately was born with no sense of smell. And so she kind of uses Shenanigan as a canary in a coal mine to check with some of her more toxic experiments. Then there is Aunt Schadenfreude, who is the matriarch, the head of the Swift family, and who likes to rehearse her funeral every month to make sure everyone gets it right. Then we have, if my screen wants to work, yeah. Then we have Uncle Maelstrom, who is a retired sea captain / pirate. Aunt Inheritance, the family archivist, and Aunt Inheritance's grandchild Earth, who's non-binary, which means that they don't identify as either male or female. Then we have Daisy, who is an American heiress who's going to join the Swift family through marrying Canda, who's a doctor and lover of terrible puns. Then we have Cook, who is an immensely strong ex-Olympic weightlifter and shot putter and possible member of the royal family. We have Flora and Fauna, the twins, who like to be exactly identical, down to the loose buttons on their shirts and the stains on their trousers. And finally, we have Uncle Pamplemousse, who is maybe French, maybe just English pretending to be French, but who likes to challenge people to duels to the death via Scrabble and arm wrestling. So, the last character, of course, as in every good children's book, is the house that they all live in. This is Shenanigan's map that she makes right at the beginning of the book that shows all of the different secret rooms and hidden doorways and all of the treasures that have been added to over the many hundreds of years of her house's history. She's constantly finding booby traps and hidden bits of treasure in like a safe, which has a moldy old sandwich in it and not very much else. It's a very strange place to live. So, that's the book. Now, you might be wondering why people have all these weird names. Well, like I said, everyone is named from the Great Family Dictionary, which is this immense leather-bound book that lives in the lobby of Swift House. And when a kid is born, the book is opened up and whoever is there closes their eyes, boop, points at a random page, and that word is believed to be their child, that is going to be their child's name, basically. And it's also kind of believed that they're going to be destined to match. So phenomena, for example, she's a scientist, and the word phenomena means things that can be seen and scientifically observed or somewhat unusual occurrences. And this fits phenomena because, you know, she's a scientist and she is a very unusual person. In and of herself, she's an unusual occurrence. Then there's Uncle Maelstrom, and maelstrom is a great word. It means a large, powerful storm or whirlpool or a scene of noisome chaos. And this kind of fits Maelstrom because, you know, he's a big guy and he's very loud. He's a lovely, rich, booming voice, but he's not powerful. He's not destructive like a whirlpool is. He's not a storm. He's a pretty chill guy, really. So that kind of matches. And then the shenanigan. And shenanigan is a wonderful word. It means tomfoolery, skullduggery, and mischief of all varieties, or a devious trick for an underhanded purpose. And while Shenanigan is looking for the treasure of Granduncle Vile and trying to find out who wants to kill her family, she's also wondering if she's going to grow up and match her name, if she's going to be causing trouble forever, if she's going to be, putting rats in Felicity's bed, or hiding fried eggs in some of the urns so the house stinks for no reason. She's wondering if that's going to be her life forever. And if so, is that because of her name? Who can say? So you might be also thinking, hey Beth, why are the names so weird? Why have you done this? You know, couldn't you just name them something normal like Bob or Ahmed or Mika or something? Well, yes, I could have, but the thing is, there is an actual reason why I did this. And it's because I'm an incredible nerd. I love words. I love old words. I love words like lollygag and gentacular and ragamuffin. Because if you think about it, there's words that we use every single day, like please and thank you and table. And then there's words that we use less often, like, I don't know, insurance or cholera. And then there's words that we barely ever use. And those words that we don't use, they get shoved to the back of the cupboard. They go moldy, they go stale, we don't use them anymore. And we end up with words that really we should be keeping on, like the word, I don't know, hoglet, for example. Hoglet is just another word for piglet. And I think it's also a word for a baby hedgehog is a hoglet. That's a great word. Why have we got rid of that? I encourage you, wherever you are, to just whisper some of these words aloud to yourself and feel how they feel in the mouth. So snollygoster or bumbershoot or nashgab, they're great. And so the dictionary at Swift House is full of all of these old words because it's never been updated, or rather it has been updated, but only new pages are added. None of the old words are taken out the way that happens with our normal dictionaries that we use, which is why you will maybe have a character called Hellacious Swift or Umbral Swift. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a quiz. And I will be able to see your answers because sadly I cannot see all of your bright, fresh faces. But what I want you to do, and I am sorry teachers, is I'm going to give you a really old word that we don't use anymore, really. And I'm going to give you 3 different options as to what that word means. And I want you, wherever you are, to shout out whether it's A, B, or C, whatever you think it is, okay? Right, so let's start. The first word is meldrop. Meldrop. Now, is a meldrop A, a dribble of snot on the end of your nose, B, a bead of fresh morning dew, or C, a fruit that fell off the back of a truck? Okay, shout out. What do you think it is? A, B, or C? It is A. A meldrop is a dribble of snot on the end of your nose. When you've got a cold and your nose just won't stop running and there's a little dribble there, that's a word, a meldrop. That's what that is. Okay, the next one. Next word is flibbertigibbet. Flibbertigibbet. Now, is a flibbertigibbet A, another word for a thingamabob, duh. B, a person who can't stop talking, so like me. Or C, a small winged insect with a deadly sting native to the Amazon jungle. And shout out what you think it is. I'm pretending I can hear you. It is B, a person who can't stop talking. So next time your friend's rabbiting on, you go, oh, you're being such a flibbity gibbet today. Okay, third one, we have barbarigum. Barbarigum, which is a great word. Is a barbarigum a type of troll? B, a person so boring they could talk you to death. So again, like me. Or C, the stomach rumbling caused by trapped gas. It is C, the stomach rumbling caused by trapped gas. Oh no. So that's a great word and one that I'm sure can be used all the time. Okay. So the next one is a great word, titup. Titup. Is a titup A, to place a small bet on a game of golf? B, to make a huge mistake in front of people you admire? Or C, to move in a jerky up and down motion like a trotting horse? It is C, to tit up is to move in a jerky up and down motion like a trotting horse. If you think of the way a horse moves, it is kind of like going tit up, tit up, tit up, tit up, tit up, tit up, which is great. It's very, very evocative, I guess. Okay, and I think, yes, this is the last one. So the last word is puckfist. Puckfist. Is a puckfist A, another name for a puffball mushroom? B, a person who keeps tight hold of their money like a tightwad or a skinflint or a miser or someone who's stingy? Or C, someone who's always bragging? A, B, or C? I'm afraid that I have tricked you. I have tricked you with this one because puckfist is one word that has three different meanings. It can mean a puffball mushroom. It can mean a person who keeps tight hold of their money, or it can mean someone who's always bragging. One word, three meanings, and there's quite a few of that in the English language. You know, we make one word do an awful lot of work for us sometimes. But that's confusing for the Swifts because, like I said, it's believed that whatever your name is, you're going to grow up to match it. So, for example, if your name was Lugubrious Swift, lugubrious is a great word. It means miserable, moping, you know, kind of like, always can't be bothered. So if you were born and you were called lugubrious, that wouldn't be very great for you because it's basically saying you're going to be miserable forever. That's no fun. That's not good. But in the Swift family, it's believed that if everyone matches their name, what happens when there's a word with more than one meaning? Like if your name is, for example, soul, does it mean soul, S-O-L-E, as in like alone forever? Or does it mean soul as in the sole of your shoe? How is that going to translate? Does that mean you're going to be a cobbler? What does it mean? It's very confusing. And it's very confusing for shenanigan especially. So here's the problem. 430 different meanings for the word set in the Oxford English Dictionary. We've already seen that there's 3 for puckfist. This is incredibly confusing. And what makes it even more confusing is how interestingly words change over time. So for example, the word clue, a clue used to mean specifically a ball of thread, like in the story of Theseus and the Minotaur, if you know old like Greek legends, the idea that he navigated through the labyrinth using a ball of thread. That was a clue. That's where the word comes from. Nice used to mean ignorant or foolish, from the Latin nescius, which is where we got a bunch of words. And now it just means kind of kind, kind of good, kind of, you know, chill. And awesome used to mean terrifying, inspiring awe. And now it means great, cool, wonderful, awesome. So words change over time. Huh. And what I love about language and about people is that people change over time as well. Sometimes we're expected to be one thing, but we turn out as quite another. You know, maybe you grow up with an expectation from your parents that you're going to be a doctor, and you get to age like 13, 14, and you decide, I don't want to be a doctor, I want to be an artist instead. And then you get to age 20 and you go, I want to go into circus tricks. And then you get to age 40 or 50 and think, actually, maybe my true calling is to be a world famous installation artist, and I'm going to fill the Louvre with balloons full of custard. Who knows? Who cares? People change, and that's great. Being complicated and messy and changeable is what makes us real people. You know, you are not going to be the same person when you go to bed tonight as you were when you got up this morning, and that's fantastic. And so language is changeable, people are changeable, nothing is fixed, everything is constantly in flux, and I love that. So thinking about that, I'm going to give you a little quick idea. I'm going to send this over after the session, so if you guys want to do this on your own, it's just how I made a character when I made all the Swifts. This is how I did it. And I think it's really fun if you guys have a go at doing it yourselves. So first thing to do is pick a word, any word. So there's a couple here that are really, really great. I love erinaceous, meaning like a hedgehog. It looks like I love it so much I've put it there twice. Sorry. And then what you want to do is you want to treat your character, even if you're not making a Swift, even if it's just you making a character, because hands up if you want to become authors, any of you. Again, I can't see you, but I'm assuming that at least one person has put their hand up out of the thousands of people who are watching this. So what you do is when you're making a character, you ask them questions, you shine a bright light on them, and you say things like, what's your name? What's your age? What's your occupation? What's your favorite thing? What's their greatest talent? What's an article of clothing they always wear? What's their worst habit? What's their biggest fear? Where do they live? And these are all really basic questions that you ask. This is like, you know, when you go into a character creator in a video game and you're selecting eye color and hair color and all that sort of thing. But then there's a second layer to making a character. And that is, what's their actual biggest fear? What's their deepest wish? What do they love or hate about their job? What's their biggest flaw? Who do they care about most in the world? What's the most embarrassing thing they've ever done? And if you're making a Swift, ask, are they like their definition? If not, why not? How are they different? What makes them a person other than just a blank face on a character creator screen? And that's just my tip on how to make characters, because this is how I made all of the Swifts. Is I picked a random word in the dictionary, I asked questions about what they looked like and what they, who they were, what their job was, and then I asked deeper questions. So I knew Shenanigan wanted to be a troublemaker, but it wasn't until I asked the deeper question, which is like, what's her actual biggest fear, that I started to realize who she was as a person. Oh, little question mark there. So I'm going to just quickly blitz through these. And you know what? I might leave these for you guys to do. So if I've got a question here about jumpstarting creativity. Here's a couple of ways to do it. I picked out random words in the dictionary. You can do a million things. If you're trying to decide what your character wants to do, roll the dice. If they get above 3, they succeed. If they get lower, they fail. Suddenly, you're not in control of the story anymore. Use story cards. Your teachers will know what they are. Take inspiration from things around you. Write in groups, share ideas, write down your dreams, write fan fiction. If you really, really love a cartoon or a film, just write a story about that. No one can stop you, except maybe Disney, but just don't tell them. Goodness me. I hope I've left enough time for questions. I have, right. So I know that was a little bit manic. Hi, welcome to me. But yes, this is my book, The Swifts. I hope it sounded interesting to you. I hoped it sounded intriguing. It's out now to buy or lend at all good bookshops and libraries. And now for your questions. So let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay.
Hello. That was an absolutely fantastic whirlwind. And I had a lot of fun answering questions just by myself in the office. I'm sure lots of other people did in the classrooms. So yes, thank you everyone again for sending in your questions. We're going to try and get through some of them here, but please pop them in the chat or the Q&A box. And we will try and race through as many as we can. So firstly, we have quite a few questions kind of about your specific writing process. So the Stevenson Memorial Primary School asks, where do you like to write? A particular room, outside? And the Warbury Academy asks, do you write your stories by hand or on a computer?
Oh, well, I'll answer the first one, which is I write exactly where I am right now, which luckily you can't see my desk, but it is covered in scraps of paper and wood shavings and random wires and some knives. I would carve at this desk as well as writing at it. So there's just stuff everywhere, and I'm terrified I'm going to knock something over with my elbow. And as to how I write the stories, I definitely write on a laptop. So I don't know if you noticed, but I'm quite energetic. My teachers used to say that my brain moved faster than my hand, which means that my handwriting is the worst handwriting that I've ever seen on another human being. And I've had to use a laptop for a lot of my school career. So for example, that's what my handwriting looks like, which is completely illegible. If that's you, if you struggle with handwriting, don't feel bad about that. Don't feel bad about anything that you struggle with. There'll be accommodations for you somewhere. Like if I tried to write this story by hand, I would have ended up with a wrist brace on. So yeah.
Excellent. Then a question from St Thomas More Catholic School. What were your favourite books to read when you were younger?
My favorite books. I read a lot. But I read a lot of fantasy actually, and I read a lot of horror. I loved the Sabriel books. I loved
Yes. Oh, yeah.
yeah. That's probably like my top tier one. I read a book that doesn't seem to be anywhere now, which is called the Doom Spell by Cliff McNish, which I really, really loved.
Okay, I'm sorry, but that's literally one of my favourite books of all time.
Yes, oh my God. So I love those. Bring
Yeah.
them back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read Terry Pratchett. I read Robert Swindle's kind of horror books as well. When I got a little bit older, I read Point Horror. And then I got even a bit older and read probably books that were too old for me, which is the experience of people of my generation. But yeah, I could give you a book list a mile long.
Excellent. I really just want to derail this whole thing into about Doomstar now, but I won't. Okay, we have lots of questions. So we've got some kids watching us from Uganda, which is very exciting.
Wow,
From the
hey guys.
international school, and they've asked, do you get any inspiration for characters from video games, and do you play any?
I do. I love video games. I play Zelda a lot. I finished Tears of the Kingdom a couple of weeks ago. That ruled. I played Animal Crossing. I played Baldur's Gate 3 recently. I played like the Dark Souls game. I play a lot of video games. And what I love about video games is the way that I write is very much like playing a game. I am a person who, if I'm stuck, I'll introduce something random. So when I talked about rolling a dice to see if a character succeeds or fails at something, that can be really helpful because suddenly, if you're planning on a character to do this big, amazing, cool thing, you roll a dice and you find out that they fail, then you have to adapt the story. And suddenly you have to think your way around a problem. And I love that. So yeah, video games and writing are actually kind of similar in some ways. It's all problem solving.
That's true. We have a lovely question from Iman in Merseyvale Primary who asks, have you ever written a story you've decided to keep to yourself?
Probably about 50. Listen here, right? If any of you want to be writers, you got to accept the fact that some of the things you write are going to be stinkers. They're going to be real bad. They're going to be so embarrassing that you want to physically burn them. I have physically burned stories I've written before because I was like so embarrassed by them. But then sometimes you write something and it's brilliant and you wish you hadn't burned it. My friend recently told me that when she was 12, she wrote a short novel about a vampire hotel. And I'm like, I would read that. So yeah, is the short answer to that.
And then I guess kind of on that, a question from the British School in Warsaw, so another international school. Hello, Warsaw. They've asked, can you tell us more about your writing process? We are learning how to edit and redraft our writing.
Oh, that is a difficult part of writing. I do think. I actually think it's way harder to write the first draft, to get over there just being a blank page. And in fact, I think there's another question about how do you get past the blank page. And I think the only way that you can do it is to just do it. And I know that's not helpful, but start with the thing that you're most excited about and then work backwards or forwards or however you want. And when it comes to editing, I would say that if you can get someone else to read it, do that, but don't do that straight away. Because if you hand something over to somebody when it's not ready, when you're not ready for somebody to read it, they may kill it by accident. They may find the one thing that you're really insecure about and just go, you know, why does this character have the power of manipulating cheese? And then suddenly your entire novel is just gone because you have no answer to that question. You just thought it was cool. Thought cheeseomancy was cool.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, I think it's called tyromancy actually.
Oh
God.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's tyromancy. Sorry, word nerd. But yes, editing, I always think less is better. So take a big knife, slash through all of the bits that don't need to be there. I'm giving advice, but I have not learned that lesson myself.
It's much easier to give the advice than to
Yeah.
follow it. I've just seen in the chat we have another fan of Doomspell trilogy, so excellent.
Yes.
A lot,
Rise
a lot
up.
of questions. Let's get it reissued, guys. There's a lot of questions in the chat which are who's your favorite character from the Swifts and why? Quite a few schools have asked this.
Who's my favorite character? I've just finished writing book 2. And book 2 has a lot more Maelstrom in it. At the moment, and this changes literally day by day, Maelstrom is my favorite. I love that he has this sort of mysterious, possibly criminal past that he just kind of alludes to every now and then. I love the idea that he has a penknife, which is just fold out pen attachments rather than actual blades. So he's got like a little fountain pen and a ballpoint pen. Love that.
Always handy.
He's my guy. He's great.
And I guess kind of similar to that, Joshua at Northcotes asked, which character from the Swifts did you have to work hardest at developing?
That's a good question, actually. I think Shenanigan herself was probably the hardest to get right because we spend so much time in her head, because she's the sort of point of view character. And I knew that I wanted her to be kind of annoying and also kind of macabre, so very focused on gory and weird stuff because that's what I was like as a kid. I was the kid who was going and like reading books about the Black Death and bubonic plague and end of the world scenarios. So I wanted Shenanigan to be kind of weird and kind of annoying and kind of, it's yeah. But yeah, I really feel like I kind of know her now, which is nice.
Yeah, excellent. Was she always going to be the point of view character?
Yeah. She was the first one who came along when I was coming up with the idea. Very first one was Shenanigan. I think she was Shenanigan Pond originally, and then it changed to Swift. And she just kind of sat down in my head one day and refused to leave until I wrote something. So
that's very Shenanigan-like behavior.
Yeah.
Akersfield Academy asks, what job would you do if you were not an author?
I don't think I'm suited for anything else, I worked in a shop before this. That was pretty much what I did. Yeah, I'm not very good at time management and focusing and all that sort of thing. I am very good at being creative, and I've kind of just picked a career that plays to my strengths, and it's something I've wanted to do since I was 7. So it's worked out really well. Yeah, but nothing, I guess, is the answer.
I also feel like with being an author, you have a million jobs because you have to learn so much to write about it.
Yeah.
We had another question. Apologies, I've lost who asked it. But on focusing, they asked, how do you focus when you write?
I struggle with it. I'm gonna be honest with you. It is an ongoing process figuring out how to wrangle my brain into doing what I want it to do. I found that wearing headphones, big noise cancelling headphones, with playing laundromat noises really helps. It'll be different sounds for different people, but for me, it's laundromats. I find them really soothing. I like to have little rewards to keep me going. I like to make sure that I've had some exercise that day. So if I've got up and like had a walk around and stuff, like that helps. Focusing is incredibly difficult, and it's like a different level of difficulty for everyone. But I do think it's the number one challenge of being a writer is just getting yourself to sit down and concentrate on what you're trying to do and make. And even if you're the most excited person in the world to sit down and write, it's still going to be difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see the question, which is, what is your favorite cheese?
I did see that. I have a horrible confession, which is going to make many people wail and gnash their teeth. I don't like cheese.
Oh,
I only like it when it's melty. I don't like solid cheese. I'm like, this is soap. Why are we biting into soap? But
what kind of cheese are you eating? Are you sure you're not eating
probably bad
soap?
cheese now I think about it. Probably pretty bad cheese. But no, yeah. So melty cheese,
Melty cheese.
whatever that is.
That's a good answer. Charlie at Woodlands Primary School in Sheffield asks, which of the Swifts is most like you?
Which of the Swifts is most like me? I think I have a little bit of earth in me, definitely. I have a little bit of shenanigan, but not the stuff about causing trouble, mostly just the stuff about hating to think logically about things. But earth kind of like being really into animals. For me, it's not necessarily animals, but I'm a person who gets really, really interested in things. And I also think that they have the most kind of um they're the most likely to sit and think about things for a really long period of time. And that's me, definitely.
Excellent. And we had a question, but I have lost again. I'm so sorry. You're asking too many questions, everyone. I can't keep track of your
Yeah,
names.
wow, we've got a really enthusiastic group. Thank you.
So obviously this book has lovely illustrations by Claire
Mhm.
Powell. So could you talk a little bit about the process of choosing Claire? Did Claire choose you? Did you choose her?
I think actually Puffin had a bunch of people they were looking at, and Puffin chose Claire. And I really, really liked Claire's stuff anyway because she did an amazing illustration of the Addams family. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's it, that's the vibe, that's what I want. And I love them. I love the sort of the ink paint style illustrations. It's all very, there's loads of little details tucked away in the full page illustrations as well. Like even down to the things like the skulls carved on the banisters and stuff. It's so good. And Mermaid eating a hot dog that she drew for one of the chapter headings, which is a painting in Swift House because they have weird art. Very good.
Did you imagine the story with illustrations, or was that like a happy
No,
surprise?
it was a happy accident. I mean, I don't think at any point I really believed that this book was going to be published because as soon as you start to believe that, you get kind of shy about it. I just kind of thought this was a huge practical joke until I actually got like the deal.
Excellent. We've got some questions about the world building now. Would you name pets in the story based on the rules for naming the Swift characters? So are humans and animals named the same in the world of the Swifts?
So the joke in the book is that they have a cat, but cat's name is John because John is the most exotic name that Shenanigan, Phenomena, and Felicity can think of. So his name, well, sorry, I'm very sorry. His name isn't John. His name is John the cat. We
Oh,
never
yes,
just call him John. It's John the cat.
the most exciting name they've ever heard. And Amberley Primary asks, what would your Swift name be?
I've thought about this quite a few times. I like the word apocryphal.
Ooh.
And apocryphal is knowledge that comes from an unverified or dubious source. So if you hear like a legend of a dragon or something that lives under a hill somewhere, and it's like, oh, how do you know that that dragon's there? It's like, oh, well, it's an apocryphal source, you know, it's from maybe lost to time, we don't know. And that's me because I love collecting random bits of information that is just pointless.
Hmm. Not pointless.
Interesting.
You used it all in the book, so
Yeah.
there we go. Heron's class in Brighton asks, what are you reading at the moment?
I just finished. What did I just finish? I just finished Green Glass House, which I don't think is out in this country, which is a huge bummer.
It's
But
really good.
it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I picked up in America because I did an American sort of school tour thing recently, and that was great. I have also just finished. Oh my goodness. No, I've just started Tiger by SF Said, which I haven't read
Oh,
yet.
yeah,
Because
we
I'm
did a
really
virtual event with him, and yeah, it was
yeah, I'm really
very
behind on
useful.
my reading because when I'm writing things, I struggle to read other books because I always worry I'm going to copy people. So I'm in a period at the moment where I'm just kind of like devouring a million books because I'm just finished my draft of book two, so it's great.
We've had a few questions about drafting. They were
Mhm.
asking about book one, but can you talk about book one and two, kind of the differences you noticed between doing?
Well, the first one was kind of weird because it took me a lot of time to write it. I think your first book tends to take the longest, really, like because when I wrote book two, I already had an agent and an editor, and I had a lot of support around me. But when I was writing book one, at first at least, until Ben came along, who's my editor, I was just kind of noodling about on my own. So it took me quite a few years to write book one. Um, but book two has been a much quicker process because I started it last year and I finished it mostly now. But it has gone through 5 different drafts. And I looked the other day, and the current word count is around 80,000 words. But writing it, I've probably written around 300,000 that have been cut and rewritten and removed. And it's, yeah, drafting takes a long time.
Excellent. And Whiston asks, will there be a third Swifts book?
Yes, there will definitely be a third. There may be a fourth. We haven't sort of figured it out yet, but we definitely a third.
Very exciting. And then someone else asks, have you ever thought about writing a children's non-fiction book linked to all of the amazing words you have shared?
I've thought about it. There's been quite I've looked actually for research, because a lot of the research I use are like really old, musty tomes, which kids are going to find boring as all get out. So I've tried to find oh, I have a recommendation actually for anyone interested in this is Once Upon a Word Origin Dictionary for Kids by Jess Safaris, which is really great if you want to learn about etymology and things like that. I really loved the Terry Deary books when I was a kid. He writes the Horrible Histories books, but he also has one called Wicked Words, which is about the English language and where it comes from and how we use it. And that's brilliant as well, if that's something you're interested in. I think the only reason I would do it is if I thought that I could do something that someone hasn't already done.
Mm.
Yes.
I feel like maybe one day you have to write the Swifts family dictionary.
Oh, I would do that 100%. I would write inheritances like files on notable Swifts, like written down people and what they did.
Amazing.
Great.
I think we've got time for one or two more questions.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of people have kind of asked who is your inspiration when you maybe another author or just kind of more generally.
A lot of people, I think inspiration is difficult because there are people that you look up to. So when I was a kid, like I looked up to Garth Nix, for example. I looked up to authors who were already published. But when you actually start to become a writer, it's much more about looking at the people around you and who's also working in children's literature and who's writing amazing things and seeing what they're doing and just being excited about what's happening like in children's lit. Like I mean, we were just talking about before the thing, we were talking about The Skull by John Clarkson that's just come out, this retelling of this folktale, this really creepy book. And that's so exciting and so inspirational. I won't write a book like that because that's not how I write books. But I do think it's inspiring me to think more about like darker, creepier children's books and what I would like to write in that. And that's basically what happens. It's like when you hang out with your friends and you sort of kind of pick things up from them, or you hang out with like just the environment that you're in basically is where I get inspiration from. I guess that makes sense. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's excellent. Inspiration is kind of like everywhere, basically.
Yeah.
And then I think we'll end with this question, which is very lovely from Zaydan from the Merseyvale Primary, who asks, what do you enjoy about being an author?
What do I enjoy? I like when it works. When it works, there's like a little click. There's like a little switch that goes off in your head. And it's like you are just unwinding a really long bit of thread. And it all comes out in one go, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to stress over it. You don't have to agonize about the words. Sometimes it just works. The Scrabble chapter was one of those chapters where I just started writing it and it straight through, done. Love that. That feeling will happen 1% of the time, and the rest of it is miserable. It's not really, I'm lying. It's great. It's a great job. But the rest of it will be more difficult. But I think my favorite bit has been coming to schools and talking to kids and like just kind of seeing the creativity that kids have. I always say that I'm 30, So I have to work 3 times as hard as the average 10-year-old to be like a third as creative and interesting.
Excellent.
That's definitely a highlight.
Perfect. So yeah, I think that about wraps us up. So just once again, a massive thank you, Beth, for your incredibly engaging presentation, and thank you to everyone watching for all of your incredible questions. Like I said, we'd love to see pictures of you enjoying the session, so please tag us at #Waterstones Virtual Events or just at Waterstones and we'll be able to find it. All that's left from me is to say goodbye and have a lovely day.
I will. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.